Hey everyone, let's jump right into this strategic briefing explainer. Think of this as your ultimate comprehensive briefing document, a tool synthesizing the absolute best draft strategies into one clear, objective, and incisive system to help you draft the most competitive team possible for the CMSA League of Legends Ruby League. Now, I want to stress right off the bat, absolutely nothing we cover today is mandated by the league. Everything here is purely informative. It's just designed to help you organize your thoughts so you can walk into draft night with total confidence.
We've got 4 main things on the agenda today. First, the executive summary and core rules. Second, roster preparation and scouting. Third, navigating role scarcity. And fourth, the multiple choice method.
All right, Section 1, executive summary and core rules. Drafting for the strongest team. Now, listen, the Ruby League is absolutely meant to be a fun, vibrant environment. But make no mistake, it's still a competitive league. If you just show up looking for good vibes while another captain is using an objective, competitive framework, they're going to have a massive advantage over you before the match even starts. You're trying to draft the strongest team possible. To do that, you've got to stick to a few core rules. Always review the weekly roster before the draft and sort the available players by role. We don't love a team where everyone is on their primary role, but the math rarely works out perfectly. So your golden rule is to limit your team to a maximum of 2 players on their secondary roles. Also, tactically speaking, while support is absolutely vital, the supply and demand usually means you can safely leave it as your final pick.
Moving on to Section 2, roster preparation and scouting, identifying top performers. Scouting is where you separate the contenders from the pretenders. We're focusing strictly on the heavy hitters here, because drafting excellence correlates directly with a successful night of games. Look at the sheer statistical dominance at the top of the Ruby leaderboard. You've got PP Bandit, Who Ain't My Pop-Tarts, Zangy, and Sage, all boasting an incredible, elite 83% win rate. And right below them, highly effective players like Blaine and Maple Mamba are sitting at a super strong 77%. Now, a quick, incisive scouting tip here. Definitely include players recently promoted from the Pearl League in your scouting, but keep in mind that their sky-high win rates might be a little misleading since they were earned in a different tier of competition. Always contextualize your data. When you take that objective leaderboard data and sort the weekly roster by role, the specialists really jump out at you. Filtering for junglers immediately highlights top performers like Zangy and Sage. If you sort for the mid lane, you'll spot Firefly. Looking at the ADC pool, Pose and Janathan stand out with really solid metrics. The whole goal here is to objectively match those high win rates and strong kill-death assist ratios with the exact roles you need to fill.
Okay, Section 3, navigating role scarcity. The first pick, tactical pivot. Because here's the thing, high stats are fantastic, but they mean absolutely nothing if you get totally locked out of a critical position. This brings us to the most important tactical pivot of your evening. Navigating role scarcity. Your very first pick literally cannot just be the player with the highest win rate. It has to be a carefully calculated balance between a player's individual metrics and the overall supply of their primary role in the draft pool.
Let's look at a head-to-head scenario to brilliantly illustrate this. Imagine player X, a jungler with a 75% win rate and a 7.0 KDA. Then you have player Y, a mid laner with the exact same 75% win rate and 7.0 KDA. On paper, their skill level is completely identical. But there are only 4 junglers available in the entire draft pool, compared to 8 primary mid laners. So if you're sitting there with the first or second pick of the draft, it forces a really high-stakes question. Why must you prioritize the jungler with your first pick, even though the mid laner is just as dominant? It all boils down to rotation math. If you choose that mid laner first, think about how many draft rounds will happen before it's your turn again. Because there's an abundance of mid laners, 8 of them, you're practically guaranteed to get a really capable one later. But with only 4 junglers available, if you pass on the jungler now, there is a massive mathematical probability that you'll be completely locked out of that scarce role by the time you pick again. Securing scarce roles early isn't just a good idea, it's mandatory for a balanced roster.
Finally, Section 4, the multiple choice method, systematic contingency planning. Because scarcity means players are going to fly off the board unpredictably, you literally cannot rely on just one dream scenario. You have to use a robust contingency system to handle draft round variations, which we call the multiple choice method. It involves building a matrix of top performers with 3 to 4 players in mind for every single role. By stacking your board like this, putting Maple Mamba up top for the top lane, having Zangi and Sage ready for jungle, eyeing Firefly for mid, and lining up Pose or Janathan for ADC, you completely eliminate draft day hesitation. If someone snipes Zangi, you don't panic, you just seamlessly pivot to Sage.
Executing this takes 3 super simple steps before the draft even starts. Step 1. Map out your dream team. If you had total freedom, who are your 4 picks? That's plan A. Step 2. Build your secondary squad. If those guys vanish, who is next up? Plan B. Step 3. Create a tertiary safety net, your plan C. Remember, realistically, you'll probably end up with a mix of primary choices, maybe a couple of secondary choices, and a tertiary pick. Planning for that reality is what keeps you from panicking and drafting someone whose playstyle you don't even know. Ultimately, what you need to take away from this briefing is that hope is not a strategy. Objective, incisive analysis of the leaderboard, understanding how role scarcity impacts your very first pick, and systematic preparation using the multiple choice method. That is what guarantees you build the absolute strongest team possible. Keep your competitive mentality sharp, respect the data, and build your contingencies.
So I'm going to leave you with this final, crucial question to chew on before game night. When that clock starts ticking down on your very first turn, and the opposing captain instantly snipes your plan A jungler, are you perfectly prepared to execute your pivot, or are you gonna panic?